imagery. Over-the-top advertisements, Klasky Chupo Nicktoons, colorful wardrobes. And what about these bricks? Seriously, these bricks were everywhere in 90s video games. From Banjo-Kazooie and Final Fantasy VII to Turok and Mortal Kombat 3. The exact same bricks are in dozens of games. They even found their way onto a German board game. 30 seconds ago, you probably never noticed these bricks' prevalence. But in July 2020, a group of internet sleuths sure noticed, and they got curious. Never mind that they're just rocks. Why were competing studios and competing franchises using the same graphic? Take a look underneath these innocuous bricks and you'll uncover a rabbit hole. The cartoonish, magical imagery from your childhood is a lot more realistic than you once thought. Welcome to Texture Archaeology.
Texture Archaeology.
Textures are those images on surfaces in video games or renders. The job of a texture archaeologist is to find what source photograph a texture originated from. Kind of like learning the Paramount logo exists in real life. The act of identifying textures used in pieces of media has been around for a while, but it didn't gain momentum until July 5th, 2020 with a single tweet from Ecumber05. Ecumber was digging through the files on an old Silicon Graphics indie workstation, the type of computers commonplace in studios making games for 5th generation consoles. One of the files looked strangely familiar to Ecumber. It was a texture that appeared in the 1996 classic Super Mario 64. In that game, when Mario puts on the metal cap, he becomes shiny. Hardware at the time was too underpowered to do real-time reflections, so to achieve the metallic look, developers simply coated Mario in a texture that looks reflective. Prior to Ecumber's discovery, nobody could tell exactly what the metal texture was. The game's file was just too tiny to make out. But now with the full-size image, it's clear the reflection is a fisheye view of a garden. This was a pretty cool new discovery for a 24-year-old game. Artist Fanamel caught wind of this news. At the time, Fanamel was creating high-definition textures for the Render 96 PC port of Super Mario 64. If the metal cap texture comes from a real-life photograph, maybe other textures do too. Finding these would certainly make creating HD textures easier. Over the next couple weeks, Fanamel passively checked any and all Silicon Graphics files in hopes of finding matches like Ecumber. The results were disappointing. Then, Fanamel had a thought. Nintendo is a Japanese company, so maybe Nintendo sourced their textures from Japanese texture CDs. Texture CDs are discs packed with photography, often purchased by graphic designers for use on their projects. They were the precursor to stock photography websites. All it took was one Google search to blow this wide open. In an image preview, Fanamel spotted the greenish marble texture used on the rocks in Bob-omb Battlefield. The findings were brought to the Render 96 Discord. With the help of the community, the specific texture CD was tracked down. The CD's parent website was filled with previews of the CD's textures. Jackpot. Many of Super Mario 64's most iconic environmental textures came from real photographs. This 24-year-old game was starting to look more photorealistic than ever before. Over the coming months, a handful of texture CDs were purchased and dozens of matches were made. Some of these matches spread outside of Super Mario 64 and into other franchises from the 90s, including Mario Kart 64 and its advertising materials. This particular promotional render for Mario Kart 64 had several texture matches, but one particular texture wasn't anywhere to be found among the thousands Render 96 now possessed. Look familiar? In a Hail Mary move, the brick was cropped out of the render in Photoshop and reverse image searched. Surprisingly, the search led to a small preview on Autodesk's website. Here we learned the name of the bricks: Cobblestone. Render 96 started a search effort to find the source of the cobblestones.
Pokemon number 591. 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 Pokemon number 591.
That's kind
As
of
the search grew in
interesting.
popularity, more people started recognizing the cobblestone's appearance in other games from the same era.
Please,
Soon, a wiki
Forsen,
page was
I
created.
wasted 15 minutes just to do Sagu.
That seems like a you problem, man. Alright. Anyone can put anything into the answer of those ones or questions or whatever. The fact that I'm not clicking your quizmaker.com quiz should prove that I'm not a normie. Alright.
To document the
You have
texture.
your answer already.
Cobblestone, the texture of your childhood. But as the wiki grew in size, the leads shrunk. For months, the search would drag on. The community's faith, much like the cobblestones, was starting to crack. That is, until February 11th, 2021. Fluvian of 64history.net found the source of the cobblestone. And it didn't come from a texture CD. It came from a program called Alias 3. Alias 3 was a high-end software suite developed by Alias Research Group in 1993. In 2006, they merged with Autodesk. That would explain the appearance on Autodesk's website. Alias 3 was designed for 3D modeling on Silicon Graphics workstations. Those same workstations that Encumber discovered the metal cap texture on. Those same workstations many Nintendo 64 and PlayStation studios owned. Cobblestone was popular because it was bundled in with a popular piece of software. Now, this conclusion may sound underwhelming, but Fluvian brought with him more than just the cobblestones. Some of Alias 3's other textures have been identified in popular media, like the bricks from the iconic Windows 95 Maze screensaver. In the words of Render96 wiki writer JY Company, the search for cobblestone may have finally concluded, but in its place, many new searches have only just begun. Texture archaeology is still in its infancy. Who knows what mysteries are yet to be discovered hidden deep within the graphics of your favorite
knows?
childhood games.
The truth is out there.
While researching this topic, I learned about countless texture matches. Here are some of my favorite findings. Texture matching is a lot like finding a needle in a haystack. This haystack from Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. But some textures are easier to match than others. For example, this picture of Pierce Brosnan from GoldenEye 007 is a lot less edited than these leaves from Sonic Adventures. Speaking of heavily edited, the runner in this Windows 10 wallpaper was photoshopped in. In February 2021, Karen Lohr, a texture artist at Valve, released the source photography from the Half-Life textures. But some source photographs are probably better left unviewed, like the SpongeBob palm tree texture that's made of actual feces. Sorry if that was unappetizing, but here's something tasty.
What?
The fruits from Super Smash Bros. Some artists take second helpings. This Sinine Pond Mountain is used in the Mario Kart 64 track,
What the
Yoshi's
fuck does it
Valley,
mean?
and its
How does
peak
the
is
palm
used in
trees
Jolly
look
Roger
like?
Bay. The tiny planets in the Super Mario Galaxy logo have been identified, and they come from the same CDs as the initial logo have been identified, and they come from the same CDs as the initial Super Mario 64 findings. Over in
Is
Wom's
that me?
Fortress Valley, and its peak is used in Jolly Roger Bay. The tiny planets in the Super Mario Galaxy logo have been identified, and they come from the same CDs as the initial Super Mario 64 findings. Over in Wom's Fortress, the dirt texture was identified, but it comes from an unknown gooey substance.
Maybe it was
Lastly,
the switch.
Charlie CN showed us you can visit Wet Dry World in real life. It's Shivam, Yemen, though the image library where Nintendo got this photograph is still a mystery. Do I hear another cobblestone hunt? Render96 is doing more than just solving tiny mysteries. They're preserving history. Anytime they acquire a texture CD that's abandonware, software that's no longer for sale, they preserve it on archive.org. Download one of these texture CDs and scroll through them for the aesthetic alone. They also have a fantastic wiki documenting all their findings. The wiki was created by Fanamel, who was a big help in answering questions. Both the wiki and Fanamel are linked in the description. Every once in a while, remember to stop and smell the roses, because sometimes those roses might just be real.
Real. Interesting.